Okay. Ready?
Ready?
She's ready.
Hi everyone, it's Angela and Karen back again. We're talking about another fabulously interesting subject. So our podcast perspective this time is carer burnout. So for us, this is such an underestimated experience that we felt it really needs delving into. So we're going to talk about some of the symptoms, some of the causes, and how we as hypnotherapists would support someone who came to us with carer burnout. Yeah.
So carer burnout is described as when a carer becomes both physically and emotionally drained by the carer role that they're undertaking. It's a psychological condition that results as a result of ongoing stress.
Yeah.
In addition to this, of course, most carers can have an intense emotional connection to the person that they're caring for, and so there's a whole raft of additional emotions and feelings and complications that can be experienced in addition to the physical and emotional characteristics we've just talked about.
Yeah.
We're not going to dwell on that too much today.
No,
but as I say, it's an important aspect, and we can add further to the mental and emotional burden that's already been carried.
Yeah, and you're so right, because most carers certainly start looking after somebody that they are really close to, don't they?
Yeah.
And because they want to, because it's something that they want to do, that they feel is their role maybe, or they feel that they don't want anyone else to come in and do it. They want to do it themselves. I think
you also hear of children acting as carers, don't you, to parents as well. And perhaps just always grow up with that carer role assigned to them. Perhaps if you start as a very young child, it's not even necessarily a conscious choice. It's just the way your life is lived, isn't it?
Yeah. It's who you are. It becomes part of you. So I think it's really interesting to see, or to talk about now, to mention what the causes are of carer burnout.
Sure.
So I think the main one for me is the prioritisation of the needs and the demands of others. And it might not be just the person that they're the main caregiver for. So there can be lots of other people that have needs. So they're prioritising the person that they're caring for, but then if that is a spouse, they may have children, they may have parents who are also demanding things from them. So they're giving all of this out and juggling multiple jobs, for instance. So they might be taking on the role of a carer at home and still going out to full-time work. Or they might still have two jobs that they go to, because people have more than one job to survive, and they may well be that they're juggling two jobs and being a carer at home, but the carer at home isn't seen as a job. It's seen as just something that they do.
And in fact, the financial imperative, it is quite possible, isn't it? Because if perhaps it's your partner or husband or wife or whatever, then they probably don't have the potential to bring income in. And so that's another source of pressure, isn't it? So the likelihood of maybe having to juggle more than one job is entirely possible, isn't it?
Yeah. And then on that side of it, thinking about the funded care that could possibly come in, but actually, is that something they want? That may be another stressor for them in terms of when those carers might come in. Is that convenient? Does it fit in with the lifestyle with the rest of the household?
How does the individual feel about having an external person come into the home and provide that? Quite often intimate care is required, isn't it? Depending on the nature of the condition. The whole funded care thing is a huge another topic, really, aren't we? And we all know it's in the news a lot at the moment in terms of government funding, the cost to individuals if they have to pay for themselves. There's a whole raft of things. And I think also the whole thing about, actually probably the potential number of vacant employed carer roles that exist as well. So I think on the surface it can seem like a great solution. I'm just not at all convinced that that's the reality for a lot of people.
For a lot of people, no, I think you're absolutely right there. But other sort of causes are lack of support from family and friends. You're very lucky, I think, and if you've got a really good structure around you as a carer, if you've got other people that are coming forward, say, can I do that for you? Can I, is there anything I can do to help? And sometimes I think on the flip side of that, people will say that, but actually when they're asked, oh, sorry, I can't do that, or I don't have time for that at the moment, which can then be, it's almost like a double-edged sword. It's a bit, the carer then doesn't want to ask people because they don't want to feel that rejection. They just think, I might as well just do it all myself.
And can you imagine the thought that perhaps you're going to have some respite and someone is going to take something on for you, and then you have to cope with the disappointment and the regret and all of those things? That must feel really difficult, mustn't it?
That's
so
absolutely
if you've got
true.
excited about an opportunity to do something, that is maybe just for you or that you need to do for yourself, it must be excruciating.
Yeah. And also having sort of high or unrealistic expectations placed on you, as well as a carer, but also as a carer having those high expectations. And then, like you say, I know it's a different situation, but if you have high expectations and they're not met, then you can also feel disappointment around that as well.
I think you're right. It could potentially be high expectations of the person being cared for.
Yes.
It could be high expectations you set for yourself as a carer.
Yes.
And it could even be that there are expectations from outside of that immediate relationship, the family and friends around. Their expectations of what might be possible as a carer might be totally unrealistic as well.
Yeah.
So I can really imagine that this is a situation that you cannot possibly hope to understand until you find yourself in it.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely fair comment. I mean, I think there's a lot of instances like that, but certainly for a carer, unless you actually live that life as a carer, in any circumstances, and whether that's for a child that has been born with needs that you are then responsible for that child's whole life, or whether it's somebody who is a parent or a grandparent who has developed something that means that they need that support, or your spouse or a sister or a brother or anybody really, but being in that situation, unless you're actually in it and have lived it. And I think it's the same for different conditions as well.
Yes.
So because you can be a carer for one condition, and actually that's a very different experience to being a carer for another condition, somebody who's got another condition. So I think there's a lot around this type of thing and this sort of carer burnout that unless you're in that situation you might not understand exactly what's happening. And I think it can be easy for people to say, oh, just have a break, just put yourself first for once. But if you are in a situation where you don't have any support around you, that's nigh on impossible to do that, and to feel that you can do it. Because of course when you're in these states, which we'll get to, so some of the symptoms, for example, having sleep issues, you might gain weight, you're tired, feeling fatigued, feeling anxious, overwhelmed, lack of energy, all of those sorts of things will prevent you from being able to make logical, rational decisions around what's best for you, which is also best for the person that you're caring for.
It's that sort of survival mode, isn't it, that we can find ourselves in when things get tough around us. In many, actually, of the sort of situations that we discuss on our podcast, is that survival mode that we all sort of adopt to, isn't it?
Yeah.
To enable us to cope. But with that goes all ability to be rational or to reason or to solve problems, and then it becomes a vicious circle, doesn't it, or a spiral, whichever.
That's right.
And
you have this you can have complete lack of motivation, lack of interest in things that you've previously enjoyed. They're sort of big things as well. And you might distance yourself from family and friends, because sometimes as a carer you may feel like you're actually a burden on your family and your friends, because if it is something that is overwhelming, you can then feel that that's maybe all you talk about, and therefore your friends probably won't want to see you because they won't want to hear what you've got to say, because they'll think, oh, he or she is just going on about being a carer and how difficult it is. And so that can end up with you thinking, well, I can't really go out because I haven't got anything else to talk about. Or
I think that's the point, isn't it? It's that lack of having anything else to talk about, because it does become so encompassing, doesn't it, in every aspect of your life. And perhaps you feel the need to talk about it because there is so much emotion and so much stress and so much in you. You must feel full to the brim.
Yeah.
But equally, you're probably smart enough to realise that for people who aren't in that situation, they just can't understand where it comes from and how bad it feels.
Yeah.
And as I say, they're perhaps out to have a few cheeky G&Ts and have a giggle. And, bless you, all you can bring to the party is, I'm having a really tough time right now.
Yeah. And it really is a sign of carer burnout that's when that's going on. And there's the physical side as well. You might be having stomach aches, you might be having headaches, joint pains, just feeling generally unwell. But also feeling angry and frustrated because this is what's happening to you.
And perhaps there's some guilt for people around having those feelings, when of course actually they're perfectly understandable, aren't they? But when you're in that negative place, I think, probably there must be some guilt in that for experiencing feeling negatively, thinking I love this person and I want them to be as well looked after as they can be, but I'm just exhausted from doing it. Yeah, I think it gets very complicated.
It does get complicated. I know when my grandmother became ill and she was, we all sort of chipped in with care for her, but there were some times when it was really frustrating because you couldn't do what you wanted to do as a carer. We didn't experience, as a family, we didn't experience carer burnout, but even that experience, you can understand how somebody can get to that point.
I think actually that brings us on quite nicely to one of the main issues that I think here is with regard to being the carers. It's important to note that the person who needs the care is the one that's really very visible.
Yeah.
And so they will have medical attention and people will check up on them, or they will call in and visit, or they might bring gifts. And I think the reality can be that the person who is providing the care fades into the background, and it perhaps can be difficult for people to understand how much they've given up.
Yes.
Potentially you're talking about the losses of dreams, ambitions, all the hopes and dreams you had for the future, the things that in another life you might have been able to do.
Yes. And
you've chosen not to pursue that path because you do that out of love in the majority of cases, but nevertheless, you know that it must be such a hard thing to live with, and I think it's largely unseen by the majority of people outside the immediate situation.
I think you're absolutely right there, definitely. And I think for a lot of people, I mentioned before about, if you've got a child, for instance, who you've got to care for more than normal, because obviously you want to care for all your children. But if you've got one where you are full-time care for them, then you may not be able to go on the holidays that other people go on. You might not be able to just nip down to the shops with your child. Because you have to put all of these things in place in order to be able to do that. It's like a military operation to actually get anywhere or do anything.
Yeah.
But other people don't see that.
No.
Because they're not in your world, so they don't even think about it. And that's not to say that that's detrimental. It's just that it's not a reality for them.
Absolutely.
So it's not something they think.
It's the reality of doing an everyday thing for somebody else.
Yeah.
And perhaps for those children that are carers, what impact must that have on their own education?
Yeah.
And that potentially has an impact through and their life, doesn't it?
And their friendship groups.
Yeah, absolutely. The isolation that they must feel must be dreadful, mustn't it?
Yeah.
And again, they do it with love.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many of them would say that they wouldn't have it any differently, but it's such a burden for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's life-altering, I think.
It is. And it's very interesting. I had an interesting conversation with a lady the other day, actually, because as you know, my father has dementia, and so I often support my mum. And my mum was going to an appointment, so the three of us went, so that I sat with Dad whilst my mum went into this appointment. And there was a lady who was sitting the other side of my father, and she started chatting to him. And I didn't interfere. I sat there, and because my father has articulation problems now, he finds it very difficult to explain what he means. And I could see suddenly a switch went on in this lady, and she started speaking to him in a different way, in a way that he could understand and they could have a type of conversation. And I thought, she must be experiencing something very similar.
Yes.
And I did have a little chat with her. The three of us had a chat, and it turned out that she's been looking after her parents as well.
Oh, wow.
And so she was talking to me and saying, I'm just so worn out. She said, I'm getting to the point where I think, is it worth it? Because nothing's right. No, I'm not doing anything right. And I said to her, you are. You know, you're doing everything that you possibly can with the resources that you've got at the moment to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, what you're doing is really nice to be doing for them. And she was saying, oh, I just feel like, and I feel like I'm worn out and I can't give any more. And I thought this is really apt actually, because we're going to be talking about carer burnout. And this poor lady was really starting to get to the point, because she was saying, I've not been well, and I was thinking, you're getting to that carer burnout point. So,
and I suppose an aspect actually that I hadn't necessarily thought about consciously before is that actually, of course, you don't know when it ends.
No,
and
there's no end date.
That's a pressure in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
To never know when it will end. And perhaps as parents of a child who needs care, you worry about aging yourself, don't you?
You do.
You know, and what will happen to your child when you are no longer able to take care of them.
Yeah.
Or perhaps you're aging yourself and caring for a parent or a partner.
Yeah.
And you can feel your own physical ability starting to wane, which it does.
Absolutely,
you know.
Because as we grow older, that's what happens.
Again, the worry that must cause, and perhaps again guilt, must be terrific, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, how would a hypnotherapist be able to help with this?
Yeah.
This is crunch time. So, what sort of things would you know, if someone comes to you with carer burnout, how do you work with them? What do you do?
I think there are a number of techniques that I'm sure we both use here, but for me the starting point would be just to try and help them regain some balance in their life in terms of the way they think. At this point you must be feeling incredibly negative and overwhelmed, and we have to try and counter that.
Yes.
And recall some of the abilities, to think, to rationalise, and to decision make, and to be logical. Yeah. So I know we always end, and we're normally hysterical at that point, aren't we? But we always end with our what's been good, don't we? And our positive thinking.
Yeah.
But I think, in many ways it's a very powerful tool, particularly when used in the therapy environment, and just get them to start to recognise the things that are good in their life.
Yeah. And they might be very, very small at that point.
They would be in the beginning, wouldn't they? They'd be minuscule.
Yeah.
The fact that they could find any would be, would say a lot about them as a person.
Yeah.
But over time we work on that, don't we? And we encourage it. And with practice it does become easier.
It does.
And then you're on the path then, really, aren't you, to sort of a slightly more level, rational conversation that you can have with them. And then we'd step in with other things, wouldn't we? I mean, would you start in a similar sort of way?
Definitely, definitely start with that. And starting with relaxation techniques, whether that's self-hypnosis or whether it's breathing techniques, because often we find that when we're getting into this sort of area where we feel we're not in control, we can breathe very shallowly, we're not giving ourselves enough oxygen in order to be able to cope well. And to slow everything down a little bit and give ourselves a bit of time. So definitely do breathing techniques. I might do some relaxation techniques. So within hypnosis, just really taking them to a really nice place that they can go back to at any point that they want to. So maybe just before they're going to bed, we can help them to go back to that place so that they're really nice and relaxed. And then doing things like building self-esteem, building self-confidence, because so many times when people experience this, they just lose their identity, they lose their confidence, their self-esteem, their recognition of themselves. So bringing them back to that.
And it's this thing about expectations, isn't it, that we were talking about, either feeling that you're failing to meet the expectations either that you set yourself or others set for you. So that would be really important too. That would be really
building
helpful.
up their sense of strength. And there's certain techniques that you can use within the hypnosis where, for instance, you give them a shield so that they've got this lovely protective shield around them that is there to support them. Those sorts of things that can be very helpful for some, maybe not for others, but that these are all things that
The trick is to try and find something for that individual, isn't it? And that's why our therapy is one-to-one, isn't it? Really, because you need to understand the person that you're working with. Yeah,
which is good.
And then I guess once you've done that sort of work to set them on an even path or a better path, then you probably talk to them about other issues around and things that they can use going forward in the future.
Because I think the first ones are all to do with helping sleep as well.
Yeah.
And once you start getting that better sleep pattern, you can start doing other things, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. It just gives us more resilience, doesn't it? More capacity, you know, to cope with whatever the day brings. Sleep is the keystone to it all, really, isn't it?
Yeah, is if you can start off with that and start to get the sleep pattern better. Because most people will have disturbed sleep if they've got care of burnout. They will be having problems with sleep.
Absolutely, yeah.
But then other things as well, aren't there, that you can talk about?
Absolutely. I mean, I think then, you know, you have to start trying to encourage them to make sure they're taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, isn't it? You know, as much as their inkling or their inclination must be to be, you know, putting the person first. The reality is if they don't take care of themselves, they won't be able to take care of anybody else. And can be a very difficult thing to convince people of, actually, can't it?
Yeah, incredibly difficult.
You know, this thing about trying to see the good in your life, good sleep, trying to find the changes that you can do within the constraints of your life, you know, finding a little bit of time for yourself, you know, that becomes your treat or your reward. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be huge or extravagant, but just those little things that are for you, about you as a person, about recognising your own needs, I think will be really, really important here.
Yeah, I think that's true. And even think just general good health, right? Nutrition, exercise, getting outside, making sure you get out in daylight. You can journal your thoughts if that works for you. I worked with somebody recently. Journaling wasn't something they did, but videoing themselves was. Okay. So you know that's something that they used.
Again, it's finding the key for the individual, isn't it?
Finding what you need for you, absolutely. Or self-help groups, even, you know, voluntary organisations, if you've got the time. Yeah. And it might be that you think you don't have the time, but actually, once you get to that point where you're able to think more rationally and have those conversations, you might find that you do have the time to do something. It could be something small. I saw on one of the Facebook groups this week for our local area, where somebody had posted on there, is anybody available to walk my dog on a particular day? I can't remember which day it was, so it was Wednesday, on a Wednesday afternoon, or just let him out into the garden once a week. And for someone that lived nearby that needed just a little break for 15 minutes, that's something they could do. Half an hour, 15 minutes, half an hour, nip round, see the dog, and then go back. And they've done something that is either voluntary or that they've got paid for, but that's just a nice little thing that's out of what they usually do.
And that person has clearly identified something, in many ways you would call it a relatively small thing, wouldn't you? But that will make their life easier. Yes. And add something to their life. And so, you know, they've done some work there in terms of trying to problem solve, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah. And I think people do like to help, don't they? They do. They definitely do. Yeah. And I think the other thing is that we can think we're very alone with something, and yet the story you just told us about your mother's appointment and meeting that woman who was clearly in a very similar situation. I just think it's so much more common than we realise.
It really is.
So finding people who understand what you're going through is easier than perhaps we think it will be to do.
I think that's right. Yeah. But I think with care of burnout, definitely the tools and techniques that we use in hypnotherapy can be really helpful for this. Yeah,
I'd agree. As I say, you can just do so much work with that person to help them understand that the way they're feeling is completely logical, but that it can be changed and it can be improved. Yeah. And they can carry on giving the support and the love and the care that they want to give, but they must look after themselves as well.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. It's one of the more satisfying things I think we do, actually.
Yes, very. So there we have it.
So there we go. Once again, our thoughts.
Our thoughts as they are. Yeah. So as Karen alluded to earlier, here we go. So we're going to talk about things that we are grateful for, feel positive about, or that have been good in our lives for the last. Yeah.
So you're asking me first,
I'm asking you first.
Okay, well, I am grateful that I finally achieved an ambition that I've had since 2012, and I've got my first tattoo.
Beautiful.
So for some reason, the way that things just come into your mind, when my father passed away in 2012, for the first time in my whole life, I suddenly thought about getting a tattoo, and I thought I would do it. As you can tell, it's taken me
you 11 years.
some time to get there, but for a combination of reasons, it just felt it was suddenly the right time to do that. So I had my first tattoo last weekend, and I love it. And everybody goes, "Oh, you want more?" And I am indeed thinking I could maybe have something, because I've got it on my wrist. I could maybe have it on my other wrist. So I'm fulfilling everybody's predictions there. I'll have a whole sleeve before you know it.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm happy about that, and it does feel like I've sort of kept a promise to myself, just to honour my father and other bosses that we've all had in life. So that's lovely. I am grateful for some sunshine we've had this week. That's been great, isn't it?
Yeah,
it has
lovely.
been nice. We thought the bad weather had gone, the good weather had gone, didn't we? And it's back, so that's been particularly nice. Now I've got some plans to finish off my garden, getting that ready for autumn and the winter. So that's always a nice thing, isn't it? What else?
One more.
My cleaner's been today. That always makes me happy. I'm very grateful. There you are. That's 3.
That's 3. Wonderful.
I know what yours is going to be, Angela.
Do you? Oh, I might surprise you.
So, Angela, what's been good?
What's been good for me? Well, I don't think I'd done this when we did the last podcast. But I went to see England play cricket, which I absolutely loved doing.
Yeah,
and I hadn't been for a few years now because of circumstances. And it was just an absolutely amazing day. So yeah, really enjoyed it, and they won, which is that's part of it being amazing.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that was really great. That was really good fun. Loved that. And today I've had my hair dyed. It is also lovely.
Excellent.
And I'm very pleased with it because it makes me feel young again.
You only look 22.
Did you notice I didn't say it makes me look young again? It just makes me feel young again.
You choose what it makes you feel.
Exactly.
Okay, I like all of those things. You still haven't mentioned the one I was expecting.
Well, I was saving that till last.
Oh, okay. Well, you say it's last. You don't know how many I want. Give me another one for 3.
Okay. All right, I'll give you another one. This morning I did some gardening, which I loved, and I've got these huge lavender bushes, which I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
And I thought, I really should cut those down. And when I trimmed it all, I couldn't believe how much better it looked than it had when it was all big. So I was thinking, oh no, it's not going to look very nice. It actually looks wonderful. So I'm really pleased with that.
Good. They're all lovely things. And have you got anything to look forward to at the minute, Angela?
You can have one more.
Well, I'm sort of asking
one
you
more
another question.
Yeah. No, I'm going on holiday.
Yay!
So I am really looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm going to spend some time with family members away.
Yeah.
Having a little bit of a break. So yeah, really looking forward to that.
That'll be lovely.
Yeah. A bit of sun. Not that we haven't had any recently.
No, I know, but a change of scene can be very refreshing as well, can't it? It can be really innovating.
Elevating?
Energising.
And invigorating.
Invigorating.
Yeah, you made up a new word there.
Woo!
Well done.
Go me.
That's
Never noticed.
Innovating.
Anyway, let's move on. So that sounds amazing, and I guess we'll be back.
We will be back.
When you're back.
When I'm back.
Yeah.
We will be back with another fantastic subject. We haven't decided on
TBD.
quite yet.
Yes. We don't know yet what it'll be, but don't worry, it'll be fabulous.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy it anyway. We hope you do too. So thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you for
and
listening.
We will speak to you soon.
Okay.